We've got Pankaj Murarka of Renaissance Capital joining us today. Pankaj, good afternoon. Thank you so much for your time. I was looking at your portfolio, composition, and nice to see Tata Motors as one of the top holdings over there. I don't want a reaction on that stock particularly, but it appears that the way global geographies are opening up, global auto sector, which this company also has a good, almost over 90% EBITDA is global now, JLR. So what are your thoughts on the global auto space right now, the way things are reopening gradually?
Yeah, good afternoon, Ajay. I think, Ajay, what we're clearly seeing is economies, at least advanced economies, are significantly ahead of India in terms of vaccination time schedules and scale. And as a result, economies are opening up across US and Europe. And as they're opening up, we are seeing a strong resurgence in demand that's coming back across all consumer segments, including passenger cars, because customers want to travel more safely, and there's a huge pent-up demand that exists in the ecosystem. So global automobile demand is seeing a huge resurgence, though it's been impacted in the short term because of global chip shortages. But yet, I think the demand is very strong, and Tata Motors clearly, with their subsidiary as a JLR, is also seeing benefit of that. And on top of that, JLR itself has undergone significant restructuring over the last couple of years, whereby they've become much more leaner and much more cost efficient. So we think that JLR will do exceedingly well over the next 2 to 3 years. And on top of that, their domestic business, which is primarily commercial vehicles, will also see a strong resurgence in demand as Indian economy opens up over the later half of this year. So net-net, as a combination of both this, we think Tata Motors on a consolidated level should do very strong numbers over the next 2 to 3 years.
Right. Pankaj, you have a reasonable exposure to some of the corporate banking names as well. And we are looking at corporate banking names in terms of the top two and also retail private sector banks. You've got a mix of both. What are your thoughts here? You think levering up will come back? Because big corporate banks are when large corporates actually lever up. But it appears that they want to delever in the last couple of quarters we've seen. What are your thoughts there that you've taken exposure?
So we like the top 4 or 5 banks in India, Ajay, because we think, as you rightly said, corporate India has gone through a cycle of deleveraging, but we think as the economies open up, we'll start seeing revival in India's investment cycle. We already started seeing some announcements across some corporates in the commodity sector, especially in steel, where some of the companies have started making announcements for investment plans. And likewise, public investment or the government expenditure on capital expenditure continues to remain strong on the infrastructure side. So we think corporate investments and corporate borrowings will revive again towards the second half of this year as the economies open up. And so should be the case with retail. The top 4 or 5 banks in India, they've raised capital in the last year, in the early part of this crisis, and they have a very strong franchise and distribution across India. And on top of that, I think the asset quality is clearly pristine. Despite going through the crisis, their asset quality has been very good. So we think they can do, 20% plus kind of earnings growth over the next 2 to 3 years. And from a valuation perspective, also they look very attractive.
Okay. What about the mid and broader markets? How are you approaching that? I see almost 22-23% of your portfolio is mid and small combination. What kind of names or themes, if not names, themes and plays or pockets of interest you have in your portfolio in broader markets? Because there seem to be, not today, but if you look at the 1 month, 3 month, there was an outperformance in that side.
We think as economies open up and as bull market matures, mid-cap, small-cap will continue to do well. But as investors, we tend to have a slightly more quality bias and we tend to be selective in investing into these companies. So one thing, for example, which we are really excited about is, I think, consumer discretionary spend in the retail sector, because we think it's been a year where consumers have not stepped out of their home and have not gone for shopping or for entertainment. So clearly, like companies, we think which will benefit as economy normalizes and hopefully which will happen sooner than later, where consumers haven't, done shopping for their apparel or gone out to watch a movie, for a long period of time. So as things open up, these sectors should be significant beneficiary, and these are some of the sectors that we are really betting on the mid-cap side.
Fair point. What are your thoughts on the earnings cycle? This was the third straight quarter where we saw good earnings. Commentary was a little circumspect depending on what sector are they representing due to COVID. But if anybody was asked, even in the con calls, 12 month, beyond 12 month, 12 to 24 month view, most of the corporates actually gave a good picture. Many of them in select sectors are even talking about capex and all. Chemicals was one area. So what are your thoughts on earnings cycle here in India?
Ajay, we are very constructive on the outlook for earnings from this year perspective also, and more importantly from a slightly more medium term perspective. I think I've said this earlier. If you look at the last 10 years, it was sort of a lost decade from an earnings growth perspective for corporate India, because last 10 years, between 2010 and 2020, Nifty earnings grew at about 7.5% CAGR, which effectively means it took 10 years for doubling of Nifty earnings. And we think on a broader level, at a broader macro level, the same thing, which is effectively doubling of Nifty earnings, can now be achieved in the next 5 years, from 2020 to 2025, which effectively means we'll probably have a 15 to 16% earnings CAGR over the next 5 years. And a lot of these earnings could be front-loaded because this year, current year, 2021, will be a very high growth year because of the low base of last year. So from a immediate current year perspective, as well as from a slightly more medium-term perspective for the next 5 years, we remain very constructive on outlook for earnings. And we think after a very long time, we're seeing strong earnings come back for corporate India. And that bodes very well for outlook for equity markets as well.
Right. Which is the area which you are completely steering clear of, where you don't like the valuations or the earning potential next 2-3 years?
Well, India is a very diversified economy. So when we have a broad-based economic revival, generally most of the sectors tend to participate and tend to benefit out of the growth in the economy. Having said that, obviously there are pockets of markets where valuations are extremely rich, and one of those sectors is consumer staples, where valuations are extremely rich, and in the near term these companies have headwinds in terms of their ability to absorb significant rise in raw material and commodity costs and how much they'll be able to pass on to the consumers. So the earnings could remain moderate for consumer staple companies, because it will take some time for them to pass on those rising commodity costs to the consumers, and until those costs pass through their P&L, their earnings growth will remain moderate. So that is one sector where we see earnings headwind and valuations are extremely rich.
Okay. There was an insight which my colleague Jayesh pulled out after analyzing some of the fund's latest addition and deletions. And one area which it appears almost everybody is nibbling into now is real estate. Depending which one particular stock is liked by which AMC, but real estate on a whole is witnessing buying. Oberoi numbers also seem to be suggesting sales at a 5-year high. They are going for a big QIP, which I'm sure they'll get a decent response of. What are your thoughts on this space, and does it make sense? And would you look at the bigger city developers like Godrej Properties, etc., Oberois of the world, or tier 2, tier 3 ones?
So, well, you're absolutely right, Ajay. We've seen a strong resurgence in demand that has come back into the real estate market as well. We've seen for the last 5 months until March, each of the month, Bombay recorded highest ever sales in probably the last 10 years. And that's been partly aided by some pricing discount with the developers offered to the consumers. On top of that, there's been stamp duty reduction by the government, and interest rates have been the lowest they've ever been on housing loans. So a combination of all these factors have triggered very strong demand from consumers to buy their own houses. So far, we don't own any property developers at this point of time, but we are playing the sector more through ancillary routes by investing into consumer durables and building materials, which are a proxy play on real estate development, because as construction happens, these companies tend to benefit by a rising demand for their products from the construction companies. Property developers, we find it slightly difficult to deal with because of the way the accounting standards are designed, and these companies, the way they prepare their, statement of accounts, P&L has lost relevance for these companies for an investor to make a judgment, and one has to clearly rely on cash flows as a metrics for evaluation and valuation of those companies. So we find them slightly more opaque from a financial disclosure perspective, and which is why we are playing it more through ancillary sectors rather than playing corporate developers directly.
Sure, fair point. Pankaj, also, you must have noticed a couple of days back, Mahindra came out and cut their guidance. And this on the top of, or in the face of a good monsoon which lies ahead. And the market still sees M&M more of as a tractor company, and of course holding stake in other companies as well. Now this time the cycle also got disturbed in smaller towns and rural area, which wasn't the really case in the first wave. Is there any area which you think actually represent the tier 2, tier 3 rural, which temporarily or transition wise may get impacted, but is a good kind of a theme to bet on and load up on if the market punishes them temporarily?
You're right, Ajay. I agree that this time around the spread of the virus or the distribution of the virus has been really into the tier 2 and tier 3 towns, and we are seeing far more intensity of the virus in terms of its spread in the rural areas, and which is what impacting lives and livelihoods there. And in the short term, this will have an impact on the economic activity there. There are significant amount of rural players that exist in the Indian ecosystem. So we clearly think that now, and this will be a classical, I think, third back-to-back good monsoons that India will have, which is phenomenal, which I don't think we have had in the last 10 years. So I think a good monsoon is really needed, and that will do a lot of good for the rural economy in India. We think a lot of companies across the agri value chain, be it across fertilizers or be it across the agri input space, will be a beneficiary of that. Likewise, we also think companies, including the tractor space, should be a beneficiary of that. And eventually, we think at the end of the day, 50% of India lives in rural areas. So if the agri season is good, then that effectively translates into strong consumer demand for a lot of other consumer industries from the customers. So we think consumer as a sector, especially the consumer discretionary, should do well.
Right. One last question then, Pankaj. You are also somebody not only who looks at individual stocks and a stock picker at Renesas, but you also watch macros very well. So putting all of that together, is there any area where you think market is missing out on some readings or indicator or your call is actually different or anti-consensus than some of the market, or you're looking at some ignored space? Anything on your mind or radar?
So I think, Ajay, I think the question out there is globally, obviously there is a lot of concerns on spike on inflation, whether this inflation, rise in inflation is transitory as what the global central banks are at least for the time being saying, or is it more structural in nature, and how soon and how fast will the global central banks respond to that, because that will have implication on financial assets across the world, across all asset classes. More importantly, we have seen a very sharp spike or resurgence in commodity prices. Now, whether this is purely because of demand or because there have been some supply side bottlenecks as well over the last 12 months, because economies and supply chains have not fully operationalized and stabilized. So what part of it is due to supply chain dislocation and what part of it is due to demand resurgence is something which we need to figure it out, and whether we'll see a pullback in commodity prices in the second half of the year, which is what the consensus or base expectation is. We believe in the camp that commodity prices will moderate. Yet, having said that, last 10 years have been very bad for commodities as a basket, where commodity prices were extremely depressed. We think the next 10 years, commodity prices will remain much higher than what they've been in the last 10 years. And commodity as a sector, while the sector has done well in the last 6 months from a stock market perspective, but we still think that globally the sector is grossly underinvested. So as the cycle plays out, we think we'll see a strong outperformance from commodities, and significant amount of money will move into commodity-oriented sectors and companies within those sectors.
Right. That's an interesting observation. All right, Pankaj, always wonderful to chat with you. Thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you, Ajay. Pleasure
That
talking
was
to you.
Pankaj Murarka of Renaissance Capital.